Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. I'm Raffi, as always, joined by Theodore. Davian is out currently due to studying finals nonsense. I think it's just an excuse, Theodore. I don't know about you. We're
Oh,
waiting for Woj to confirm those allegations, but I mean, we're chilling right now. Things are going great. It's May. We're deep into the second round of playoffs for both the NBA and NHL, and sooner rather than later, we'll be getting our Eastern and Western Conference final matchups. Theodore, as someone who still has a rooting interest in at least the NBA playoffs and also in the NHL
yeah.
playoffs,
Both, yeah.
how are you doing? How's everything going?
Well, on the NHL side, I'm recovering from the heart attack that, naturally happens when you're up 3-0 in a series. And, next thing you know, you're down 3-1 in game six, about to go to game seven. I did not know what got into that team. Wow. Yeah, that was rough. Now, granted, I mean, when you get outshot, I believe in all three of those first games, and still find a way to win, clearly you're probably bound to lose a game or two eventually, and that happened. But Chris tried. Come on.
Well, see, this is the thing though. If you had told like me or anyone else who watches a lot of hockey and said, "All right, Rangers, Hurricanes, how many games is this series going?"
Yeah,
The lowest amount of games you would say is six.
I probably
There was no way
yeah.
it would have been. I said seven. I had Canes in seven originally, so I was wrong there. But I would have expected six as like the low end. So seeing the Rangers up 3-0 and then seeing the Hurricanes win two games, it kind of was course correction in my mind, where it's like if you were like at some point as a Rangers fan, I feel you have to get an idea of like this is going like too well. Like there's no way that they're gonna just flat out sweep the Hurricanes. And those first three games are all decided by a goal, two of them in overtime as well. So it was a tight series the entire way, except for game five where the Hurricanes won 4-1. But even that was close until
We
the
were
Hurricanes
leading.
kind of ran away with it in the
Yeah,
third.
we were beating them heading into the third.
And then the third period of game six was, as you said, vintage Chris Kreider hat trick. First time an NHL player's gotten a hat trick in a period since actually Jonathan Marchessault last year, which is kind of funny that that's happened actually very recently. But this Rangers team looks really good. I really like the Rangers. I just don't want to see Jacob Trouba hoist the Stanley Cup, and that thought in my mind is just it's not great. But now they're going to play the Florida Panthers, who recently knocked off the Boston Bruins in a 6-game series as well. And this is going to be a tough matchup for the Rangers. I think the Rangers, they throw the body a lot. They have some good grit guys in Barclay Goodrow, Jacob Trouba, etc. But Theodore, when I tell you the Florida Panthers, like they seek blood, like straight up. They will do whatever it takes to get back to the Stanley Cup final again.
Oh, and I don't doubt it, but I also don't doubt just how incredible this Rangers team is. And you just look at the way we played the first 7 games of the playoffs, the way we played all season. That should go without saying. And then also the fight that team shows, facing the prospect of going back to a game seven, needing something crazy to happen, and being able to rally. I like the Rangers in 5. I know that Florida last year's playoff run was incredible. It really was. And I did not expect them to beat Boston personally. But they did. And they're here. They're our opponents. And I'm really, all things considered, not too concerned.
I'm actually a bit surprised that you were picking Boston over Florida because personally, just the top six for the Bruins this year just wasn't as good as years past. No Krejci, no Bergeron. You lost a lot of depth in the forward and back end. And again, as someone who roots for the Bruins when the Blackhawks aren't in the playoffs, honestly, this went as well as I expected. Honestly, I had them losing in the second round to the Florida Panthers in my original prediction. You didn't lose to the Leafs in the first round, and I think as all Bruins fans would be completely okay with that. And the Panthers are just a better team at the end of the day. So I think the Bruins, they're in a good spot. They can make some moves this offseason. They have cap space. So I'm not too concerned about the Bruins, but I will say Sergei Bobrovsky, and now we're getting a Russian duo matchup in the Eastern Conference Final, which would be very fun to watch between Shesterkin, a brick wall, and Bobrovsky, another brick wall. And Bobrovsky is one of those guys where he just doesn't give up the big goal. If he'll allow a goal, he just shuts it down and plays such good goaltending and just refuses there was so many chances the Bruins had throughout this series to get another goal or two in, and Bobrovsky just completely denies them. So I'm really excited about this Florida Rangers matchup. It's going to be a really good one, and we'll see what happens. But moving on, Theodore, have you been paying any attention out west? Because things have also been getting a little crazy with Dallas now punching their ticket to the Western Conference Final, and then Edmonton, Vancouver, Game 6 tonight as we record this a couple hours before on Saturday.
Well, the most action I watched was the Knights Stars series, round one. So I watched a lot of Dallas play. That's a series I thought Vegas was going to win. And then I tuned in here and there across the Stars, but I have actually watched a good amount of Vancouver Canucks hockey. For those of you who don't remember, preseason, I picked them in the conference final, and I've been invested.
That was an underrated call. I got to give you your props there. That was a good call.
I want to see that pick work out for me. And here's the thing. And this is something that I don't quite know the sport of hockey well enough to say if this really applies, but in the NBA, you can have, let's just go back to any point in the 2010s, a team could have a 3-2 lead on LeBron James. It happened, He's the best player in the league, and you could have him on the ropes, and you could still go into those final two games of the series expecting to lose them both, And that's the kind of feeling that I get watching this Vancouver Canucks team, You're going up against the best player in the sport, what Draisaitl's capable of. I personally actually do like the move that Skinner's going to start for tonight. Is Game 6 tonight or tomorrow?
Game 6 is tonight at 7 o'clock. So thankfully for me, I know it's even crazier out east, but for me personally, I'm not someone who stays up late. So staying up for Dallas, Colorado last night, right, to stay up until 1 a.m., that was crazy enough. So 9 o'clock games are not very Raffi friendly, but I'm very happy that Game 6 at least tonight's at 7, and I'm sure Game 7 will be probably at 7 if that happens as well. But yeah. That is tonight.
I'll tell you, I definitely would expect to see an Edmonton win tonight. And then, Monday night Game 7 in Vancouver. That should be a great atmosphere and just overall a great game. But I want to believe that my pick will pull through. I guess we'll find out if that happens.
I think the big thing is just Elias Pettersson getting going. He still hasn't really taken over a game yet or really cemented himself in the playoffs. And that's something where he got that bag back in March. He got his big contract. He almost potentially got traded to the Hurricanes, which would have been crazy. But anywho, that didn't happen. And I'm just expecting him to kind of take over a game. He's one of those guys that you turn to. JT Miller had his moment last game, scoring the game winning goal with less than 30 seconds left or 35 seconds, around that much time left. We've seen other players on the Canucks take over a game. I haven't seen Pettersson do that yet. This is a great opportunity for him. And I actually preferred Calvin Pickard over Stuart Skinner. I thought Skinner made a couple more worse saves than Pickard did. I don't think Pickard really did anything the past couple of nights that he started to really lose the starter's net, but I just find it very funny that we had the third goalie on the Oilers playing against the third goalie of the Vancouver Canucks, just the way that it worked out due to the Smith and Demko getting injured for Vancouver, and then obviously Stuart Skinner's poor play, and then you also had Jack Campbell being sent to the AHL. So for both teams to be starting essentially when they went into the season, their third string goalie, that's obviously a great storyline as well. And I can't imagine Connor McDavid going down without a fight. So I'm with you. I think the series is going to go 7 for sure. I would be very surprised if the Oilers weren't able to send this a 7. The only unfortunate thing is the fact that that would imply that the Oilers score goals, which means I'm going to have to listen to their very annoying goal horn, which I do not like at all. So we'll see what happens. But
for me,
the Canucks are very capable of losing 2 games, Theodore. I've watched plenty of Canucks playoff games before. They have the moment you get, it's like the Leafs. The moment you start to get hope, that's when you're most vulnerable, and then they just bring you back down.
For me, on the topic of Edmonton, it feels like this has got to be the year where McDavid breaks through, right? I mean, I don't think I'm reaching and saying that.
It's a big year too because Leon Draisaitl, his contract expires not this offseason, but the following offseason. So extension talks can begin July 1st. That's the first day he can potentially get extended. And then Connor McDavid's contract is the next year it expires. So this is make or break really for the Oilers.
Yeah, because that's, it's just you don't see teams with that much star power up top. I mean, you rarely do. I mean, I think those 2013 Miami Heat teams are the best comparison, honestly. To have a LeBron and a Dwayne Wade together, and I do use a lot of basketball analogies, but I think that, first of all, it's a crazy disappointment if you lose to this Vancouver team. Right? I mean, to only win one playoff series
It
this
would be
year.
different. I think it was Thatcher Demko, but again, I agree with you though. It would be a failure for this era if the Oilers do not make the Stanley Cup final
Yeah.
at any point, like in the next year. Like this, if not this year, if they don't make it to the conference finals this year, there is a good chance. Draisaitl is not from Canada. He doesn't have any like obviously he spent a lot of time with Edmonton. He got drafted by them, but there's nothing that indicates Leon Draisaitl has like a willingness to stay in Edmonton or he really loves it, etc. He could sign that extension July 1st and make me look like a buffoon right now, but he has no obligation to stay in Edmonton at all. So again, too, it's like if he doesn't feel that this team is going anywhere, he's a top 5 player in the NHL. He could easily just say, you know what? We didn't make it to the conference final. We've only made it one time since I've been here and since I've been playing at such a high level. I'm gonna go get my bag somewhere else and go to the Chicago Blackhawks or any other team, really, honestly. But
And then don't forget, like,
come to Chicago.
Yeah, and you'll have to pay him a lot more to extend him. I'd have to imagine if you don't win a cup. There's no shot at him taking any kind of pay cut for a team that.
Especially in Canada, on top of it too, we've seen all this. Like, we're not getting into politics on this podcast, but like Canada, things are so expensive there too. Where not even Chicago, but like if you get an offer from the Florida Panthers or Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't think either are realistic enough because they don't have the cap space for Leon Draisaitl. But a $13 million contract, you're getting a good portion of that in a no tax state in the United States, or even in the United States in general, versus $13 million, maybe in like $15 million in Edmonton or anywhere else in Canada. So that'll be certainly something to keep an eye on. And once again, if they can't get past Vancouver in this round, then there's going to be a lot of talk. Just like the Carolina Hurricanes, too, who bowed out to the New York Rangers. We talked about the Rangers earlier. And Theodore, I don't know if you saw my latest TikTok, Benchwarmer Sports TikTok. Follow us. There's a little plug there. The Carolina Hurricanes are losing. Yes, we did. We're getting close to 2,600 as well. So hop on the train, hop on the ride now. The Hurricanes, if you look at their expiring contracts, they're going to potentially lose a bunch of key pieces on their entire team. They have $30 million, which on the surface looks fine, but then you get into, okay, you need to bring back Jarvis, you need to bring back Nashus, you need to bring back Teravainen, you need to bring back Shea, Pesci. You're losing at least potentially 3 of your top 6 D-men, so the entire defense could be completely different. And this is a team that's built upon their defense. Their forward core, you're already losing at least potentially 2 pieces of your top 6. And then Rod Brind'Amour, your head coach, is still not extended. So things will be very interesting to see in Carolina. And Theodore, unless you have anything else, why don't we talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder?
Why don't we talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder? And look, Edmonton, Vancouver Game 6, I'm sure that'll be an entertaining battle, and that will be one that I'm not watching because my eyes will be fully directed
I can respect that.
On my Thunder tonight. I mean, look, we go out, we sweep New Orleans, and people are calling us out. They're saying, oh, like weakest 1 seed all time, all that. And I didn't really like that. I didn't really like the disrespect that I felt like we were given. And unfortunately, those criticisms are only getting louder as we are now in Game 6. We're on the ropes. And if I got to be honest with you, I'm not loving our chances. I mean, Shea is a one-man show right now. Like, he's doing everything for us. I mean, he's leading us in points, rebounds, and assists, on a team where...
It's what a pro wants. He's what a pro would want.
That commercial is great, and I don't care what you or Damien
For you, it's great. For anyone else, it's terrible.
It's so awesome. Bad. I love it.
But I don't want to take away from your point.
Yeah. Chet's got to learn more about being a pro because he's putting up numbers still. I mean, 15 and almost 8 boards a night. And he's still getting his 3 blocks a game, but you just look at him out there and like how are guys able to get so many buckets inside against this guy who's been such a good rim protector all year? It just you should be stepping up. You should be challenging Luka more. It's just I don't get how an OKC team that has always just played such great help defense. Like our blueprint for the past, basically since the 2020 playoffs, where Dort clamped Harden, has been put Lou Dort on the best defender and play the best help defense you can. And that's gotten us
And they
so
play so
far.
connected too. And you can see that in all the videos that you see online just with the chemistry, but they play, as you're saying, like they play like you can tell, even as someone who doesn't really watch a lot of basketball, you can tell that this team is very well constructed and very well put together as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. And I love the way that they play the game when they're playing it right. But we're not giving Lou Dort any support, you know? It makes absolutely no sense to me. There is no player on the roster who's doing as much as Lou Dort is right now. I mean, and people are really trying to say that Luka's performances are due to his injuries, like that's the reason he's struggling. No, it's Lou Dort. I've watched this guy shut down superstar after superstar for half a decade now, and he's incredible. You watch what he does to Luka. You watch the way he annoys him. He knows what he can get away with. He knows what he can't. He knows he has 6 fouls to use, and he can stretch them out over the course of the game. Mess with Luka a little. Lou Dort has been incredible all series.
The crazy thing too is Kyrie hasn't even been very well, hasn't done well in this series either
Oh
too. And
yeah,
you'd expect him to potentially like be a major component just by looking at the stats.
and that's something that really annoys me because, like, PJ Washington is the second best player on a team that's about to beat us this series. That should
Yeah.
not be happening. We have 4 players who are better than PJ Washington. Although I was counting Josh Giddey as one of those players, and talk about just atrocious basketball. Josh Giddey is borderline unplayable. How does a guy who has been such a great playmaker, shot creator all year, averaging 2 assists per night in the playoffs? It's outrageous to me. He's down to 19 minutes a game. He's under 10 points. He's barely grabbing rebounds
He put
anymore.
up more than 10 points one night in this entire series, and one of them, and that night he put 11 points up, which is
Yeah.
just you can't like he's not expected to put up 20 points again. Like obviously you hope that's where he gets to, but he's not expected to do that much offensively points wise, and he's just been completely non-existent the entire time.
No, it's been horrific. Yeah, so he is someone that I wouldn't complain if I would have no complaints actually if he just does not suit up tonight because Case and Wallace should 1000% be playing over him. Wallace goes in. He's been great on Kyrie defensively. He's been serviceable on Luka when Dort's been out of the game. And he can hit his open threes, which is something that Josh Giddey just cannot do.
See, I will say
It's a
the
lot
good
of fun.
thing about the Thunder as a whole, and you've heard me say this before with teams either in hockey and in basketball, where they're a young team, and as long as you don't make this a consistent thing, worst case they lose in the first round. It's not, or in the second round rather. I don't think it's the end of the world as long as they don't look bad losing in that round. Because again, this team, this is the first time they've been a one seed in a while. This is the first time they've been in like they've had expectations really, and if they fall short this year, I don't think it's a big deal or the end of the world. And maybe this could even be a sign of like a place where you can jump off of it and potentially make a big splash this offseason because you have a lot of guys if you're the Thunder on rookie deals, and then you also have still a boatload of draft picks to work with. So even if the Thunder bow out, it's hard to imagine that they won't be at least one of the top 3 seeds come next NBA postseason,
Oh,
just with all the flexibility they have financially, draft pick value, picks wise, and just with you already have a really good team. But if you can take that next step, they'll get another big piece. Then this team is really gonna take another step or two to being a true contender. Because you can make the argument that although Dallas is a 5 seed, you can't underestimate Luka Doncic at any
oh,
point.
and look, we are one player away from a championship. Like, I fully believe that. You know, like seriously, if we just had any ability to contain PJ Washington, we'd probably win this series in 5. You know, we just need another big. You know, I would like to think that a guy like Bam Adebayo becomes available. I deep down don't think we'll get anyone of that caliber, but we're one player away. You know, and honestly,
You guys just need Jaden McDaniels.
yeah. Getting honestly, I could be okay with us losing this because I already got so much satisfaction out of watching KD get swept. So that was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you know, I expect us to win tonight. I really do. Jalen Williams will not be as bad as he was those last 2 games. I mean, he'll get his stuff together. Please, for the love of God, do not let Gordon Hayward onto the court. This dude has played, I think it's 47 minutes for the playoffs and has not made a single bucket. He has 0 points in his action, you know. We bring in a
It's
veteran.
so sad how the fall off of Gordon Hayward, as many things, must be studied and dissected because it's so sad. The moment he got injured in his first game with Boston, his career has just gone right into the gutter. Unfortunately, he just hasn't been consistently as good as he was when he was with Utah, and it's just very
Right, like he
disappointing.
was never, but he was still putting up numbers at the end of the day. You know, when we got him, we thought, here's a guy to lead our second unit scoring wise, veteran presence, and he just, you know, he's been losing minutes to Ousmane Dieng and, you know, a second round pick in Jalen Williams and Lindy Waters. Like, it just sucks that Hayward has kind of fallen flat the way he has, but, you know, I honestly, it's hard to be mad at all about this OKC season. What I said coming in was that this season would be a success as long as we won a playoff game or a playoff series. So I can't be that mad. You know who can be mad though? The New York Knicks, because
Oh, this is. I was gonna go Denver Nuggets, but we can touch on them in a little
we
bit
got
because
to get
that's
the Knicks
interesting. But
first
let's
because
let's do the next first.
there is no excuse for losing this series. Seriously, and Knicks fans have been doing the opposite. You know, because I'm in New York now, so I'm around all of them, and they're all saying, you know, everyone on WFAN radio saying like, oh, like they're injured, they're banged up, like it's such, you got to be so, you know, it's just such gritty basketball. They're putting everything out on the line. You have no business being in a game 7 with Indy the way the series is gone. You know, Tyrese Halliburton has not been that good. You know, if you were losing because Halliburton was doing some heroic stuff, I'd be okay with it. The fact of the matter is New York is a team that is built so much better, that plays so much, you know, better together. And it's just crazy to me that we're now, you know, facing the prospect of the Knicks not making the conference finals. Because if
You
it's
know,
not
in
this
my
year,
mind,
it's never going to happen. You know,
yeah,
it's now or
in
never.
my mind, I'm just impressed by Jalen Brunson. Like we all had I saw everyone reacting the first time the Knicks signed him to that deal, and all the talk about it. And I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't even know if they're in the second round, and they surely would not even be. The series would be over. The Pacers would likely have won it if it wasn't for Jalen Brunson. That man has put his team on his back, and he's just been quite frankly incredible. This could be a legacy game for Jalen Brunson. This game 7 tomorrow
Yeah.
as we're recording
Game
this
6
podcast on
could have
Saturday.
too, and then he shot 2 for 13 in the first half. So that
Yeah,
was rough to see. And you know, people are trying to make Brunson's injury into a huge thing, which is crazy to me because, like, people are saying, oh, like, he's losing a step. Like, he's not the same player he was. Like, they're acting like Jalen Brunson, when healthy, is Russell Westbrook. He's not. He's not the kind of player who needs to rely on his athleticism to make things happen. If anything, he's one of the slower point guards in the league. So he's not really being affected by this injury, I think. And look, Jalen Brunson is probably, alongside Kreider and a bunch of Rangers players, plus Judge and Soto, he's probably a top 5 most loved man in New York right now. And he truly does have a chance to go down in history here. You take the Knicks to their first conference finals appearance since the year 2000, and everyone forgets about Carmelo Anthony right away, just like that. Like you are the Knicks
That's
savior.
crazy too.
Oh yeah,
You know what's also crazy? I'm looking at the Pacers roster, and low key, I'm a bit surprised that they only got 47 wins. And honestly, I knew Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner were Pacers. Some of these other players, I had no idea Obi Toppin was an Indiana Pacers. That's just, as someone who doesn't pay too much attention to the NBA, just looking at the Pacers roster, I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
Toppin's so fun for them. And TJ McConnell, I think he's going to show out in Game 7. I think he's going to have a huge night, and he will be he will probably never be able to safely walk around the city of New York if he balls out and they win the game, because he'll be one of the most hated guys. He'll be full on Grayson Allen type villain. We saw what they did to Trae Young a few years ago. Everyone hates that guy now. That'll be what TJ McConnell has happened to him.
That'd be crazy too. That'd be so funny.
Tomorrow, 3:30 at the Garden. That's going to be one of the greatest atmospheres we've probably ever seen in the NBA. Seriously, the Knicks games all have been just so intense. It feels like I'm watching a college game when you see just how crazy everyone goes. Minus, the first 2 rows, which is packed with, celebrities who've never watched a basketball game in their life and now just want the clout of being with a good team. But 99% of the fans there are so into it. It's amazing. Seriously, MSG, between what these Rangers games and these Knicks games have looked at.
I want to go to MSG. That's on my bucket list of places to go. I want to go to MSG so bad.
It's incredible. You really have to at some point. It's so fun. And
you know what would have been crazy too? It would have been crazy. I don't remember the Hurricanes Rangers schedule, but they played Game 6. I want to say, no, it wasn't last night. It was the 16th. It would have been crazy if somehow it lined up where the Hurricanes Rangers played a Game 7 on the same day as the Knicks Pacers. That would have been that's too quick of a turnaround to go from basketball to hockey. But oh my gosh, that would have been absolute madness. That would have been so much fun. But let's move over to the Nuggets Timberwolves. Let's move back out west. I am very surprised that the Nuggets are struggling to crack 100 points. Theodore, as someone who doesn't really pay too much attention to the NBA, is that a bad thing if you can't put up more than 100 points in a playoff game? Is that concerning? Because I'm a little bit concerned. Also, Anthony Edwards, that man is a walking quote. The people who covered the Timberwolves, they're so lucky because no matter what happens, I just feel like they're always going to walk out with a good quote from Anthony Edwards, or at least something that's fun.
Oh, absolutely. Edwards is awesome right now. Quick side note on the series before we get into it. The NBA, the best thing that can happen to them is a Thunder Timberwolves Western Conference Finals. Because I guarantee you, we probably have never seen a conference final series with that much personality on both sides. You just, Edwards, Jalen Williams are 2 of the most, I feel liked basketball players in the league right now, just from what they're doing, saying, their antics on and off the court. Everyone seems to love them. Shea versus Ant would be just such a great young battle. Now, on the flip side, if you do get the Euro matchup between Jokic and Luka, there's appeal to that too. So if I'm the NBA, I'm praying that one of those 2 matchups happens out west. But quite frankly, I cannot tell you who's going to win this Game 7. Minnesota goes out. They win those 2 games. they run Denver out of the gym in game 2. And I told everybody that I knew, Denver's going to go out. They're going to win these 4 games. And, most of them won't even be close. And at first I was right. They take the 3-2 lead. And nobody could have prepared me for what was going to happen in game 6. How do you lose by 45 points?
Aside from the 45 points, if it was like 150, 110, it's like, okay, this is like still bad, but 70 points, like, that's insane to me in a playoff game. Just
No,
in any game, to see a team put up only 70 points in the playoffs on top of it. How do you only score 70 points in a game? What was said in the pregame by the coach? What did he tell his team? Because he clearly said something ridiculous. So where they only put up 70 points in not a must win, but like technically every game in the playoffs is a must win. But for a series clinching game to only put up 70 points, people should be fired even before the game 7. Even if they win game 7, heads should be rolling for just it's unexplainable. I have no idea. Please make this make sense, Theodore, because it makes no sense to me how a team could. That's like a team getting just like shut out and having like 12 shots the entire game in the NHL, and just like you might as well just not show up. Like I don't know why the Nuggets like even bothered to show up in the fourth quarter. There was no reason to. They could have just said, okay, we're going to game 7.
And you saw it with the Knicks Pacers a week ago, and you saw it twice in a week. It's crazy. And the other thing, like Jokic, I would argue that Tuesday's game, or that Tuesday's game 5 might have been the best performance of his entire career. This dude, 15 to 22 from the field, 40 points, no turnovers, by the way, 13 assists, 7 boards. Like, he was just everywhere. Like, I don't know if I can recall a single possession from that game that he didn't influence in some way. Like, he proved he was the best player in basketball, and then he follows it up by having, like, just an off night, Like, he was not great.
You know what's crazy too? Jamal Murray, when the Nuggets don't score, it's largely Jamal Murray who's not, like, even Jokic still had 20 points versus Minnesota in game 6. Jamal Murray, when he's not on his game, I feel like the Nuggets as a whole just cannot function just with Jokic as a whole being the primary source of, like, you need, and even in the NBA, like, it's like NHL, like, you need so many different pieces. NBA, you can win a championship with 1 or 2 guys, but you need some people you need some compliments to Jokic here. And when Jamal Murray's not producing, it's detrimental to the Nuggets if they are trying to win a game.
And Jamal Murray not producing, like, that's the whole reason that
he was 4 for 18. He was 4 from 18 in game 6.
And he's always just, since the bubble, I mean, when he was leading Denver on all those 3-1 series comebacks, like, he's just always been an insane playoff performer, And this series, he's had a bunch of off nights, and they've coincided with the days where Denver's lost. So I saw him ball out in a bunch of game 7s in the past. I've seen it happen. I expect it to happen. But at the same time, there's just, like, I don't know where the momentum is right now. You'd think it would be with the team that just won by 45 and it's playing at home. But you'd also think that national champs, best player, or reigning champs, best player in the world, you think that means something. You think,
There's 2 ways this game 7 is going to go.
The Timberwolves have won just 1 playoff series ever.
Either 1, the Denver Nuggets get extremely, extremely mad about their past effort in game 6 and how they played. They get a fire lit under their bums, and they ball out, take game 7 convincingly. Or, what also is the other scenario in my mind, the Nuggets don't show up in game 7, and they just are checked out completely. There's one, either way, I think it could be a close game for sure. But I think it's like you're getting one of 2 things for the Nuggets. Either you're going to get them really riled up and like, hey, we're ending this now. Like game 6, Rangers Canes, Chris Kreider going into the thirds, like, I'm taking over this game. we're not going to game 7. Nuggets, you got embarrassed in game 6. This is for them to be like, okay, we're not this team. We just won the NBA championship. We're gonna put this team in their place and ball out. So there's two options really in my mind. I don't think like
Agree.
game 7s can be close for sure, but I think you're really getting two things out of the Nuggets here, and both
Yeah, I would not be
are like big teams.
surprised.
So like
What really sucks is that this series, you know, it's only had 2 good games. Like game 1 was
yeah,
awesome. Game
and
4
there's
was
like no offense too. Like the teams that lose in this series don't even crack 100 points for the most part. So it's
yeah, I
like
think
there's no offense either way. And I don't think defense has been like a key part of this series either. It's just inept offense for the most part.
yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And look, game 7, we should be coming into this like expecting probably one of like the greatest basketball games we see. The
I
storylines
have
are there,
no
but I
expectation
think
of
it'll be
that.
that good of a game. I've seen the first 6, and look, game 7 basketball is incredible, and I'd like to think that this is, but yeah, like I said, not high on it.
Let's move on. Cap off real quick. Boston handled the Cavs real quick. Any thoughts on the Celtics? Is this
Boston's
their
going to the
year?
finals. I mean, they're gonna win the East, and I don't think they'll be opposed. I really coming in, I thought that the Bucks were the only team that could have done it. Um, Unfortunate how injuries played out for them, but I'll tell you what, the Pacers just aren't all around good enough, and the Knicks, if they win, they'll be way too hobbled and just exhausted to pull it off. So even with a banged up Porzingis, I would bet the house at this point on Boston playing in the NBA Finals.
So you're saying Jason Tatum will disappear for the finals then? Okay, cool. All right,
Uh,
well that will do it.
they will lose in the finals. That's a better way to phrase it. Because I seriously
We
think
gotta,
that any of these 4 West teams remaining are going to ball out.
yeah. So we'll see what happens, and obviously we'll be keeping touch and talking about these over the coming weeks as we get closer and closer to crowning the champion in the NBA and NHL. So for Theodore, I'm Raffi. Thank you so much for watching this edition of the Benchwarmer Sports Podcast. We hope you enjoyed. Once again, feel free to follow us on TikTok as well, Benchwarmer_sports for more condensed and shorter videos as well. And yeah, we'll see what happens in the NBA and NHL realm. Round 2 almost wrapping up for both, and we'll see what happens for the respective Eastern and Western Conference finals. So we'll see what happens, and have a good one. See ya.